We're here at the John Radcliffe Hospital in Oxford, where an SMA newborn screening pilot has been conducted during the past 3 years. Together with me here, I have Professor Laurent Servais, who has been leading this pilot.
So I see patients with SMA and other neuromuscular conditions, both in the UK and in Belgium. And that's part of my life, and the other part is about research. And about research on identifying early the patients and treating early and being able to quantify the effect of the treatments.
Newborn screening begins with just a few drops of blood collected shortly after birth. Behind every test in the lab, the real purpose is to give babies the best possible start in life. While SMA testing may look complex in the lab, it all starts with a tiny blood spot from a newborn. Each result helps identify rare conditions early so that babies can receive the care they need as soon as possible.
So how often do you see these cases for if we discuss SMA today?
Well, in a typical clinic week in Belgium, I will see like 10 to 15 patients with SMA.
Okay.
And I would say that between Belgium and UK, I see about 100 patients with SMA.
Okay. Okay. And are they in Belgium? Are they all detected with newborn screening?
Yes, so that's a completely different stories because in Belgium we start screening March the 5th, 2018. So 7 years ago, more than 7 years ago. So it means that today we have patients who have been identified by newborn screening who are 7 years old. And it also means that we don't have any new patients with less than 7 years old who are not been identified by newborn screening. Only one of them, no, two of them. The first one because he has a point mutation that is not identified by PCR newborn screening, and the other one because he's born in France. He's Belgian but born in France and was not screened. Otherwise, all our patients now have been identified by newborn screening, which is not the case in the UK, unfortunately, and that makes two complete different populations. It's not the same disease. On one hand, and in Belgium, most of them are normal kids, you know, and they just come to your clinic and we chat, we speak, we discuss about things, you examine them, they are normal, you just prescribe the drugs, and that's it, full stop. Well, in the UK, these patients who have not been screened, you have to discuss the wheelchair, the non-invasive ventilation, the nutritional assistance. So all these things that makes a neuromuscular clinic quite heavy and sometimes difficult. So it's really two different populations now. When I arrived I'm a very lazy person. So when I arrived in the UK, I can't think to see all patients with SMA. It's impossible. I'm too lazy for that. So I really wanted to have a newborn screening in place. So we set up with my team a newborn screening program. Altogether, we screened over 35,000 newborns. We identified one patient who has been treated and who is doing perfectly well today, and parents were happy. So the pilot has been a success in terms of implementation, in terms of acceptability, feasibility, reliability. There was no false positive, no false negative. A child was identified, he has been treated, he's doing well. So what do we need? We need to go to a larger scale, and that's hopefully what will happen next year. SMA is a disease in which patients are weaker and weaker by day. Patients wake up in the morning and know that they will lose something, that they will be weaker. It's a disease that affects one child out of 10,000, which means in the UK every 5 days a child is born with this condition, which is a lot. It's a recessive condition, so which means that most of the time it happens out of the blue in the family. And these patients either in the first months of life, either in the first years of life, either after the second decades present the first symptoms. And of course, the earlier, the worse. It means that if you start early, in general, it's a very severe form. And in the patients who start before the age of 6 months, they all die before the age of 2 years. If it starts in the adulthood, you can maintain ambulation for 10 or 20 years, but all the forms are degenerative. All forms are progressive. So I used to say there is no mild SMA. I mean, if you are told today you are healthy, right? But if you are told today that you're going to walk with more and more difficulties in the 10 or 20 coming years until the wheelchair, but don't worry, it's a mild form. Can I call it a mild form? So there is no mild SMA, nothing like that. It's a disease for which we have treatments nowadays, and we have 3 treatments that are approved nearly in all countries in Europe. And what we've learned is that our patients improve when we give the treatment, then they get stable and then they resume declining. The earlier we give the treatment, the longer is this phase during which they improve, and it goes up to patients who are treated at birth, and after 7 years they are still improving and they are still normal. So this trajectory of the patients, which is a kind of trajectory in which on treatment they improve and get stable then decline, it's very clear for adults or for older children, but when it comes to patients identified at birth, so far we don't have any regression. And this is something we didn't know some years ago. We felt that our patients, even treated late, will improve and being stable. Yeah. It's not true. And today we know that the only patients who do not decline are patients identified by newborn screening. The classical way of being diagnosed with SMA was for the parents, or most of the time the grandmother, to observe that something was going wrong. Mm-hmm. And then you go to your GP or your pediatrician, and then you are told that baby is a little bit lazy, maybe you should wait a little bit. So there is an odyssey, right? And before you get your diagnostic down, you may have 3 months, 5 months, 10 months, sometimes years, and in SMA type 3, decade of going from one to another doctor. If you don't think about SMA, you will not diagnose SMA. You need to think about it. You need to specifically ask for the mutation. So as long as you don't meet a doctor who think about SMA, you will not get your diagnostic, which means that the classical pathway is a long pathway, and it's a pathway, that can be extremely difficult to live with, because your child is sick, you see your child doing worse and worse by day, and you get an appointment with Dr. X and you have to wait for 3 months, and then you go to Dr. Y or to Dr. Z, and each time you have to wait, and each day you see your child going down. So the classical pathway is extremely difficult to live for family, and it starts with a long odyssey. And when this odyssey is over, then you finally get the test, you finally get the treatment, but it's too late. SMA is a disease in which motor neurons die, and these cells will never come back, never. It means that what is lost forever. It will not come back. So it's a terrible condition. It's a condition for which we have treatments, but these treatments are still imperfect when delivered late. And that's why we need to screen.
Yes, of course.
And now when we see our patients identified 7 years earlier in Belgium, these are normal kids going to school. Those who were already symptomatic, because some have a very rapid form, and when you meet them at the age of 20 days, you see already the symptoms. And these patients are not normal, but they are doing well. They are able to walk, they are able to climb stairs, and then you see there is a deficit. But these children would be dead in absence of newborn screening. So it's a complete different story. So newborn screening has been absolutely game-changing for families, because you avoid this long diagnostic odyssey, because you have a child who has the best chance to be ambulant and to be ambulant forever. And then because you avoid this trajectory of improving, being stable and decline, and so far all our patients are improving. So it has been transformative for family. It has been transformative for the public finance, because there is a massive amount of money that you save by screening. You don't need to buy bitcoins, you don't need to buy shares of AI that will spike up. You need to screen. That's the best investment that any country can do. When you have a treatment that works, screen, you will save money. Then comes the problem of capacity, is that if we decide not to screen, we are producing every year a cohort of patients in the wheelchair, but every year a new cohort. So where are the doctors to take care of these patients? Is the system, is the NHS ready to welcome all these patients in the wheelchair with a non-invasive ventilation? Where are the doctors? Where is the structure? Where is the capacity to manage all these patients?
We're hoping to add SMA in the UK screening program soon. After that,
next step is genomic newborn screening, being able to say, okay, this is the number of conditions that we could treat and that are severe, that starts early. Let's screen with a genomic test for this at birth. And this is not science fiction. Today there are 23 programs in the world for genomic newborn screening, several that are published. There is an international consortium for newborn screening, so things are really moving the right direction for that. We learn a lot every day, but I think that there is no other solution than being, omic, to think large and broad and not for single disease one by one. In Belgium, we started 4 years ago a genomic newborn screening in which in our lovely city of Liège, we proposed to every parent from the social hospital, so not the poshest place in the world, to be screened for all these treatable conditions, 411 genes. And so we took the time to explain. We made a video where an handsome doctor explains to a lovely pregnant lady the principle of genomic newborn screening. It's 30 seconds video so that you can focus on that. You don't need to go, to read 24 pages. And so we really try to inform people properly in 10 different languages. And do you know what is the percentage of parents who accept for their child to be screened for 411 genes? It's more than 90%, which is very high. And it shows that people have the choice, that we're not obliging people to sign. There is a similar program in the US, and they got 70% of approval. There are several programs like this in the world. If you pay enough attention to inform properly people by the right way, you can reach 90% of approval, which is huge.
So what would be the one thing you would wish people would understand better about newborn screening?
Newborn screening has the potential to completely change our way to manage rare disease. And rather than to force people through a long odyssey, at the end of which you deliver a drug that does not work, to go straight to the diagnostic and to deliver a treatment. There is no other way of doing, no other way, because these treatments are super expensive. They are more and more. We cannot afford to pay 3 million for a drug and then 7 million for standard of care, and then having kids who anyway spend their life in the wheelchair. It cannot work. It can work for 1 or 2 conditions. It cannot work for 20 conditions. We have to accelerate dramatically our way of thinking about the treatment of these conditions. Otherwise, the system is not sustainable. If we want to continue to be able to invest in rare disease and from a social security perspective to reimburse the treatment, we need at one point to find a way to make it cheaper. And if we decrease the price of the drug, we will decrease the investment in the system. So if we want the system to continue, we need to get a better effect of the drug, and we need to have a better impact on what this disease costs to the society. And the only way of doing is to combine all approach to prevent. It is easier to prevent than to cure. But then newborn screening can help all kids, not just the kid of people who have money, who are highly educated, but all kids can get a similar chance to be treated as soon as possible and to have a complete different future than if they had not been treated. When it comes to genomic newborn screening, many of the conditions that we screen could be treated with a couple of cents, with a couple of dollars. Congenital myasthenia is treated with pyridostigmine that costs nothing, and with salbutamol that costs nothing. Many conditions could be treated with drugs that cost nothing. It means that we could virtually screen for 200 or 300 genes anywhere in the world, because we could treat these patients anywhere in the world. So maybe this is also a transformative way to understand how newborn screening could give a better chance to kids born with rare conditions anywhere in the world. So from an ethical, medical, clinical, economical point of view, screening is just a no-brainer.